my congregation can attest to, I regularly go over time. And when I begin to speak, then I keep on speaking, I can continue speaking. I'm so excited to have all these our guests here today. And this is my favorite topic, the one I'm most passionate about. And believe me, and I'm sure my Muslim brothers and sisters can guarantee that I could continue talking all day. But the problem is that we want to hear from you. And we want to hear what's on your mind. That's why if you look at the actual agenda, the question and answer session is 50 minutes. And my whole presentation on Islam plus the architectural elements, somehow I have to magically make that 30 minutes. And then we were informed that a US congressman is also visiting, he's dropping by, and he's going to bite into my time, not your time. So I have to make it really, really short. That's the biggest challenge for me, how to shorten it. So let me first do the architectural tour. We have such a big crowd. When we have smaller crowds, smaller number of people, then I physically take them through and walk through and show them all the different elements. But now we're just going to have to do a little exercise with our necks, crane them this way and that way to look at different things. So this particular mosque is based on the Ottoman architecture. The Ottoman Empire was a particular period in Islamic history. And their capital was today known as Istanbul in Turkey. So this is, if you don't understand Ottoman, then we can simply say Turkish style. There are many different styles of mosques. None of them are inherently necessary to follow any particular architecture style, but over time, different areas, different regions where Muslims live, they develop their unique architectural styles. So you'll have the Indonesian and Malaysian styles of mosques in the Far East, Chinese mosques, and then you'll have the Mughal architecture in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, the subcontinent, and you have the Iranian Safawi mosques. Then you have even West Africa, completely different type of structure, made of, they use the desert sand in their structures. And then we have this Ottoman mosque. So this is a Turkish design. So when you came in, people, the volunteers, they told me that a lot of the guests are asking about the calligraphy. Make sure you talk about the calligraphy when you speak about the mosque. So when you first came in, you noticed perhaps on the arch overlooking the main entrance, there was a verse inscribed in Arabic right in the stone. It was water jet right into the stone. It was etched in the stone itself. So that is a verse of the Quran. And what is God saying in that verse? Wallahu yad'u ila DarusSalam. So God is in Himself inviting you towards DarusSalam. Now DarusSalam, of course, is the name of this mosque, but DarusSalam is actually one of the names of paradise itself. And what does it mean? DarusSalam means the abode of peace, the abode of eternal peace, where there will be no wars, no bloodshed, and eternal happiness. DarusSalam. Salam means peace. Dar means abode of, so abode of eternal peace. So there's a double meaning here. One is the actual intent of the verse, that God is inviting you to enter paradise by behaving well, following His commands, abstaining from His prohibitions, so you become deserving of entering paradise. And also at the entrance, we are putting it as a sign, as a good omen, that God is inviting you to enter this DarusSalam. And you all came. So that is that verse there. Then when you come in the lobby, we have different verses inscribed. These are painted. These are actually hand painted on site. They're not stickers. Sometimes people think that, are they just, it can't be hand painted. It must be just printed and it's not wallpaper. It's actually hand painted on site. And all different types of verses. In the lobby, the verses that are in the semi-dome there is the verses about Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. God is the light of the heavens and the earth. It speaks about light because it's right next to the chandelier. So we have the physical light and God is the spiritual light of the heavens and the earth. And furthermore, it goes on to say, Fi buyutin adhin Allahu an turfa. God has given us permission to erect houses to remember Him, to honor Him. So this house has been erected to honor God. It is a mosque which is there to honor God. And then when you come into this main prayer hall, if I briefly speak about the calligraphy, since this is a repeated question, all the way on top of the dome, where The chain goes up and it is descending from the top of the center of the dome. In gold on a red background, there's a verse written in a circular manner. It covers that circle on the top. And what's written there is, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُمْسِكُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ أَن تَزُولَ. It is God alone who is holding up the heavens from crushing down upon your heads. So the good omen here, of course, is a hint for us that it is God who's, just like He's holding up the heavens, we hope He holds up this 24-karat gold-plated chandelier. We don't want this 24-karat. It is nice, 24-karat gold-plated. That's great. It's from Cairo and is imported and etc. And it also has calligraphy on it. It has La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, that we believe in the one God, Allah, and we believe in Muhammad as the messenger of God. It's written on there as well. Each of the lamps has it written on it, on the first ring at least. There's 3 rings, outer rings, 2 central discs. Beautiful chandelier, but we hope it stays up. We don't want it to come down. That's why I personally chose some of these verses to go in different places when we were in the construction phase. And then many of my Muslim friends also, they don't know this. You know more than them now. I never really talked about this on a Friday sermon, about all the calligraphy. Likewise, in the dome here, there are some very beautiful verses. The last 3 verses of the 2nd chapter, Surah Al-Baqarah. لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. That is a very beautiful story there. Maybe we can share another time. But these are considered to be very sacred verses. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and mercy be upon him, one time there was a very loud crashing sound. Everyone was scared. What happened? He said, today a door in the heavens has opened which was never opened before. And an angel has descended from those gates that has never descended before on earth. And he has brought such verses upon me which were never brought upon anyone before. And these were the same verses on top that we have written. And then in front here, on my right, you have, it says Allah, which means God in Arabic language. And over here, you have Muhammad in the big medallion, the big disc, the big circle. Muhammad, the messenger of God. And then in these small medallions, repeatedly in the center, we have the name of God, Allah. And in the compartments, there's 6 compartments per medallion. In those 6 compartments, we have various attributes of God. Because we believe God is infinite in His being and infinite in His attributes, but He has revealed 99 of them for us to know. So there are 99 names of God, attributes of God. What do we mean by attributes of God? Just to give you an idea, Ar-Rahman, the one whose mercy is all-inclusive. Ar-Rahim, the one whose mercy is most perfect. And Malikul Mulk, the master, the one who has complete dominion. Huwa al-Awwal, the one who is the first, without a beginning. Al-Akhir, the one who is last, without an end. Al-Zahir, the one who is most apparent. Al-Batin, the one who is most hidden. And who is As-Sami', the all-hearing. Al-Basir, the all-seeing. Al-Khabir, the all-knowing. Al-Adl, the just. Al-Muqaddim, the one who raises people up. Al-Mu'akhir, the one who brings people down. Al-Mu'azz, the one who grants honor. Al-Mudhil, the one who brings disgrace. You get the point. So these are the 99 attributes of God. And now this word Allah itself, just to demystify the term, it just means God. Simple as that. God with capital G, the supreme being worthy of worship. And He's not even unique to Muslims. What I mean by that is it's an Arabic word, pure and simple as that. It's not unique to Muslims because we have many Christians which speak Arabic too. We have the Egyptian Coptic Church, the Qibti Church in Egypt. Then we have Christians in Lebanon. Lebanon is an Arabic-speaking country that has majority Christians. They have more Christians than Muslims in Lebanon. Right? That's another misinformation that's very rampant, that we believe all Arabs are Muslims, and we believe all Muslims are Arabs. That's absolutely false. Actually, there are more Muslims in India, Pakistan subcontinent than there are in the entire Middle East put together. So Muslims are many. There are many non-Arab Muslims. I mean, Muslims can be Indonesians, can be Malaysians, can be Chinese, can be Bosnians, can be West Africans, can be North Africans. They can be from all different colors and shapes, and we have our own revert brothers and convert brothers and sisters, American, Caucasian, and African American as well that are Muslims. So it's not a particular Arab nation that are Muslims, but rather those who adopt the religion of Islam, they are Muslims. And likewise, within Arabs, there are Arabic-speaking people who are Muslims, of course, and then there are Christians and there are Jews. There's a huge Jewish population and historic Jewish population in Yemen, in Morocco, in other places within the Muslim world. Of course, in Palestine as well. In Israel, there were Jews that were there before Israel was founded, that were always living there, coexisting with Muslim neighbors. So, Allah it just means God. And when I mean that, if you take the Arabic Bible, the Christian Arabic Bible, and if it says, like for example, Jesus says, I am the Son of God, then he will say, Ana ibnullah, I am the Son of Allah. To that extent, literally even in the Christian Bible, the word Allah is used. So that is what I mean when I say Allah just means God in the Arabic language. Now, other architectural elements worth noting is that this is called the mimbar. The mimbar is the pulpit where on Fridays, just like the Jews have their day of worship on Saturdays and the Christians have on Sundays, then the Muslims, our major day of congregation is on Friday. So the Muslims, we have our Friday sermon, and the Imam, myself and the other Imams that serve here, we climb up on this, traditionally up to the third level, and that way we can have a better view of the public. So that is called the pulpit, the mimbar in Arabic. And then, unfortunately, this is covered up now with the screen. Maybe at the end we can remove the screen, and you will see a beautiful niche here. This is called the mihrab. The purpose of the mihrab is it identifies which direction is Mecca. Because this is a very fancy mosque, sometimes there would be very simple mosque as well. And when a traveler would be come by to pray, and maybe he's not a regular attendee, then he would not have an idea of which direction to pray. Because as Muslims, we don't pray in any direction. We pray facing Mecca. So the purpose of the prayer niche is to identify the direction of Mecca. So all the mosques in the world are facing Mecca, the house of worship, the house that we believe was built by Abraham, the prophet of God. So this is what the prayer niche is. And then we have minarets, 109 feet tall minarets, twin minarets. It's a very symmetrical building. Symmetry was an important element of Ottoman architecture. The purpose of the minarets originally used to be that the caller to the prayer, and we will hear the call to prayer, it's part of our session today. He used to climb up onto the balcony. Today, unfortunately, he won't climb up. We do have a stair in there. You can climb up the balcony. It's, for maintenance matters or issues. But they used to climb up on top of the balcony and they would call the faithful to prayer 5 times a day. This is known as the adhan. So this is something very well known about the Muslim lands, that the call to prayer is called from all the mosques, and it reverberates in the community, and the faithful are called to prayer. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. God is the greatest, God is the greatest. It starts with the praise of God, and then it says, Hayya ala salah, come to prayer. And what am I going to get if I come? Right? We need the carrot. So the second statement in the adhan is, Hayya ala al-falah, come to success. Come to prayer, come to success. We will hear that call to prayer shortly. And then, so we have also one element of mosque used to be the ablution facilities, because there's a great emphasis in our religion on purity, outward purity and inward purity. And to inculcate inward purity, you need to start with the outward purity. It's an important element. So washing was an important part of the rituals before prayer. Before prayer, all the men and women would come, they would have their separate bathrooms, and besides the bathrooms, then there would be a ritual ablution or washing, and where the face would be washed, the arms would be washed, and so those ablution facilities used to take the form of beautiful pools of water and elaborate systems in the past. We have just normal running tap water and those ablution facilities downstairs. All right. So when you go, if you need to use the bathroom, you might see those. Please do not mistake them as urinals. That actually happened one time. So those are ablution facilities to wash before prayer. Okay. We don't have any urinals. We only have toilets here. Okay. Because another interesting thing to note, our Prophet, he forbade us. Because the drops of urine come on the body, then your prayer is not valid. So purity is such an important part of our faith that actually such a mundane thing as even how a person relieves himself, there are particular guidelines regarding that. That we should not stand and urinate, and purification, and etc., etc. So now coming to the actual religion of Islam, within the few minutes left I have, I spoke about the mosque. I concluded that chapter of the architectural elements of the mosque. I mean, I can keep on going, like this geometric patterns that are on the minbar, the same geometric patterns you see in the windows, because people were seeing the North Avenue traffic and getting distracted in prayer. I'm talking to them and they're looking at the traffic. So that's why we put the geometric patterns in the windows. And why we put geometric patterns is because in Islamic art, our religion forbids animate drawings of human beings or animals. Most of our art is either geometric patterns, calligraphy, or floral patterns, landscapes. Because in our religion, but the ultimate greatest crime is polytheism, assigning partners unto God. We believe in really strict monotheism, oneness of God. And historically, images have led to statues, and then statues have moved on to become idols. So that's why we have a strict emphasis on, in our art, of having geometric art, floral art, landscapes, other kinds of paintings of inanimate objects, but not of images of people. So we do not have any images here. That's something you can note as well. Anyway, moving on to Islam. What is Islam? Basically, Islam is a religion which is, as Muslims, we believe a continuation of the message of God to His creation on this earth. We believe God, He created this world, and He created all of us, and He created everything that we see and we do not see. And He created us for a certain purpose, not just to fulfill our whims and desires and our wishes and live our life like animals, but for a higher purpose. And what is that higher purpose for which He has created us? How are we supposed to determine that? It will be difficult on our own. So that is why God sent messengers throughout time. And these messengers came and they explained to us the will of God and what God wants from us. So Muslims, we believe in all of the past messengers. So what is very interesting to note, many non-Muslims do not know that how close the teachings of Islam are to that of Christianity and Judaism. So as a student of religions, I studied world religions as well. We have some Hindus who are here too. Our congressman, as we will be introduced later. We have others who are from the Hindu faith. So the Hindu faith is a faith that originated in India, and it has a very distinct and different outlook on life, has very unique beliefs of reincarnation, etc. Then you have the Confucius, philosopher is there. He has his different perspective. You have the Eastern religions. You have the pagan religions. You have the Native Americans who used to worship the spirits. They have very different outlooks. And these are all different ways that people have come to understand nature and the purpose of their existence on earth and how they relate to God in whatever form they believe in God. But when it comes to the Muslim narrative, it is so similar to the Jewish and Christian narrative that the similarities will astound you when you begin to study. And that's why the differences become even more apparent, because they're so similar. It's like the same story, but then at the end there's a difference, and that difference becomes more apparent. So, for example, when I say it's so similar, we believe in Adam, we believe in Noah, we believe in all of the prophets of the Old Testament. The story of the flood in the ark, if you studied in Sunday school growing up, we believe in all of those stories. They're actually mentioned in our Quran. The Quran that I memorized and many of our children in the school are memorizing, and the beautiful young girl, she memorized that we heard her recital. She recited from memory. She was looking down because she was feeling kind of humble, but she was not reading, by the way. She was reciting from her memory. She didn't have a little phone down there and reading off her screen. So she was, all these stories are in the Quran. All the patriarch Abraham and Isaac and Ismail, his two sons. All of these stories are in the Quran. We believe in all the past prophets. And then when it comes to Jesus, what do we believe? As Muslims, other religions, if you ask Native Americans, they don't have any concept regarding Jesus. If you ask the African tribes in Central Africa, they don't have any concept regarding Jesus, perhaps. If you ask the Chinese or the Hindus, perhaps they don't. But Muslims, we do. So the similarities end up sometimes becoming a source of tension, unfortunately, being frankly speaking about it. It's because we actually have beliefs regarding Jesus. We believe Jesus is a prophet of God. We believe his birth was a miraculous birth. There's a whole chapter in the Quran, Surah Maryam, chapter Mary, where God speaks about the Virgin Mary, and she is very much respected in our religion. It is when my sister had a daughter, and she was the first amongst my parents' grandchildren, from among the siblings, the first child to be born. Then when I was asked that, what opinion do you have, what should we name this new girl, I gave the name Maryam. That's one of the beautiful names, Mary. I named my niece. I don't have a daughter, otherwise I could have named my own daughter Maryam. So we love this name, and we love and revere this woman. And she is known as one of the most pious women of all times. And then we have Jesus. We believe him to be a prophet of God, a messenger of God. He spoke from the cradle. And the entire story, when Mary delivered the baby and came in front of the people, and they said, Ya Maryam, anna laki hadha. Oh Mary, how did you come with this baby? You are unmarried. How dare you commit such a crime? You come from a virtuous family. We expect you to be chaste. And then she فَأَشَارَتْ إِلَيْهِ. She pointed to the baby in the cradle, and then the baby from the cradle spoke up. All of this is mentioned in the Quran. So then after Jesus, then where does the difference lie then? We believe in a day of judgment. We believe in heaven and hell. We believe God will judge between his creation. We believe this earth will come to an end one day. So we have a very similar narrative as the Jews and the Christians. The difference comes then is that after the prophet Jesus, we believe in another prophet, Muhammad. And this prophet Muhammad, he was in 7th century Arabia. He came, he preached, but he continued to always mention that I am not coming with a new faith. I'm not coming with a new religion. I'm continuing the religion of my predecessors. Those were my brothers, the previous prophets. I came to complete their message. And the revelation that came upon him was the Quran. So we believe the Quran is not the words of Prophet Muhammad, but rather these are the words of God. Then there are words of Prophet Muhammad, that's called the hadith, the narrations of the Prophet Muhammad. They were meticulously recorded and transmitted to us throughout centuries of Islamic scholarship. No one can just say that this is what the Prophet Muhammad said. It will be rejected within Islamic scholarship. You have to prove a chain of narration. Who said, who told you? This is my narrator who told me, and this is his teacher and his teacher. We have like lineage that you have in your family lines, family trees. Likewise, we have lineage of scholarship. My teacher, my teacher's teacher, my teacher's teacher. We have like between me and Prophet Muhammad, there's like around 39 to 40 different teachers throughout the centuries. So when we speak on the basis of, and then all those teachers and centuries of scholarship, who the scholars were, we have their biographies. We know when they were born, when they died, and who they were. And this is how the traditions of our Prophet were preserved. So that is the second source of Islamic law. And what does Islam teach? Islam teaches morals and ethics, universal values like other religions. Islam teaches peace and tolerance and acceptance for other religions. Islam speaks about, the Quran says, La ikraha fid din. There is no compulsion in faith. Islam cannot spread through compulsion. Faith is something that is internal. A person has to choose to believe, and only then his Islam will be valid. We have different forms of worship. We have 5 daily worship in our faith. We have the yearly month of fasting in the month of Ramadan, where we abstain from eating and drinking to feel the pangs of hunger that our less blessed brothers and sisters might feel, and to share in that. We have the fast in the month of Ramadan. We have the annual pilgrimage where we go to visit the house of worship that was built by Abraham in Mecca. And we have the 2.5%, not of income, but of all your assets. Every year, a charity, which is 2.5%. This is called the zakah. So these are the pillars of worship. But then besides worship, our religion is a complete way of life that it gives us details regarding human interaction, regarding family law, regarding character. All of these things are taught to us in our religion. So I'm sure you have many questions, and as I said before, my presentation was limited and I purposely made to be very short so that we can hear from you. And really, I'm getting messages that I should conclude my words at this point. So I will conclude, but I want to really hear from you. And I want you to open up and freely ask whatever questions you have in the Q&A session so we can address them more fully. Thank you very much for being an excellent audience.
Thank you again, Imam Minhaj. So what we're going to do, just so you get a quick forecast, is we're going to call as Imam Minhaj was mentioning, there's a call for prayer. So you'll get to hear that firsthand by one of our young students. His name is Hazim. So I'll call Hazim up right now. He'll give that adhan, and then you'll hear a few words from our Congressman Raj Krishnamurthy.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
Thank you again, Hazem. So now we have a very esteemed guest, Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, who would like to address this gathering. So, Raja.
Assalamu alaikum. I am honored to be here. Good afternoon. I want to observe the 3 rules of public speaking: be short, be sweet, and be gone. And in that spirit, I really only have 3 points to make today. And the first point is very simple, which is thank you to the DarusSalam Foundation, thank you to Imam Minhaj, thank you to Dr. Misbahuddin, and all of the trustees and the members of this beautiful mosque for opening up your wonderful facility for all of us to see and to learn more about Islam today. Can you please give them a big round of applause? This is really special. Thank you for doing this. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. My second point is equally simple, which is thank you to all of you for coming into this facility today to tour the facility and to learn more about Islam. In a time when we want to learn more about each other, you are doing the right thing by bringing your beautiful children here and your families. Can you give yourselves a big round of applause? It's so lovely to see all of you. And my third point is a little more serious, a little more extended, and it's this. We're going through some challenging times as a country right now. There's some turbulence, as you have probably seen on the news and perhaps you have even encountered in your daily lives. You've heard of evangelical Christians, and I very much respect them. I happen to be an evangelical American. From my bully pulpit as your congressman, I preach every day the values of liberty and freedom, equality, hard work, and prosperity. And I say that if you believe in those values, you are an American. You are an American, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of how you pray, regardless of how you dress or what language you might speak at home, and certainly regardless of the number of letters there are in your name. There are 18 in mine. All that matters is this. Do you live a life of character? Do you raise your children right? Do you work hard and play by the rules? And do you try to give a little something back to your community and this great country? Because if you do, we will stand shoulder to shoulder with you as you try to live your part of the American dream. And so, although we may have come here on different ships, we are all in the same boat together now. And so that is what is so important as we remember what makes America exceptional and why we come today to gather in this beautiful facility and this beautiful mosque. And so with that, I want to close with my favorite saying, which is that yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, but today's a gift. That's why we call it the present. And so I'm just honored and blessed to be with you here today, to learn more about Islam, to see your beautiful mosque, to be gathered with you as we remember that we are always stronger when we're united than certainly when we are divided or fractured in any way as a country. So with that, I thank you so much, and God bless all of you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So at this point, we'll open it up to a question and answer session. If you just give us just a few minutes just to get set up here, we'll get that going. So what we have is an interactive question-answer session. We also have a standard question-answer session, so I'll explain that to you just momentarily. So first and foremost, if you notice the board here, we have a website. It's called slido.com. If you go to slido.com on your mobile devices and touch or type in the hashtag MASJIDDS, you can electronically submit your questions directly to us, and what we'll do is we'll get it right here, and we'll be able to respond to them. You also should have some surveys with you as well. In the event that we don't get to a question that you really want answered, there's option for you to write that question, submit it to one of us, and leave your contact information, and we'll get that question or that answered. We'll get the question answered and send it directly back to you. Lastly, in the event that you don't have a mobile device or you wish to just ask the question directly via microphone, we have two kind gentlemen who are walking around with wireless mics. So if you want to just raise your hand, we can go ahead and start the question and answer session.
Okay, hi. This is a question about the women's clothing. And some of the women have the veil and some don't. Is there a special meaning, or they just wear it if they want to, or what, for the veil or no veil?
Yes, basically, so this is called the hijab. The hijab is, maybe a lot of people you have that cannot see, so I'll stand up. So the hijab basically is a part of the dress of a Muslim, a woman, and it is a sign of submission to the will of God. It is something that women wear out of their own accord. It is not permitted to force a woman to wear the hijab. It is a sign of modesty. We were speaking earlier about Mary. All of the paintings of Mary as well show that she had her hair covered. Even traditionally in American culture, their bonnet was part of a woman's dress. We have paintings and portraits of our First Lady, George Washington's wife, Abigail Adams, all of them, that was part of the dress. So this is a part of the dress of a Muslim woman throughout the countries that Muslims practice Islam. And there are different levels of observance. Some go further and even veil the face, and some others just cover their hair. So there are different levels of adherence. Some go further to the extreme extent, some just cover their hair, and many Muslim women do not even cover their hair nowadays. That's a fact. Probably more Muslim women don't even cover their hair compared to those who do cover. So there are those who are holding on to their practice. Some have left their practice due to cultural shifts. And just like in other religions, many practices have evolved over time in place. So some are not practicing, some are practicing. That is a difference that you see.
Hello. My question is more like trying to elicit your personal experience here in DuPage County as a Muslim. In the last couple of months especially, and even just in the last couple of years and even since 9/11, what has been your experience here in DuPage County? Have you faced racist remarks, etc.? Has your experience overall been pretty positive, etc.? So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Very good question. Yes, so this is a definite reality that unfortunately there is a lot of misinformation out there, and you are in the front line to counter that. And that's why we are so excited, overjoyed that you took out time to come here and hear about Islam and what Muslims are from Muslims themselves. So standing here today, I want to make it very clear that we cannot justify all the actions of those who claim to be Muslims. We can defend the teachings of Islam. And we have to make this clear distinction between the teachings of Islam and all the actions of Muslims. Just like there's a distinction between the teachings of Christianity and the actions of Christians, the teachings of Judaism and the actions of Jews, the teachings of Hinduism, the actions of Hindus. So, from people that belong to all the different faiths, the faiths themselves are beautiful faiths and they give beautiful teachings, but the people who practice the faith sometimes may uphold those teachings and sometimes they may go against that due to various reasons. So that is the same story with Islam. It would be a horrific act of injustice if a person, he assigns all of the criminal acts that occurred by anyone who claims to be a Christian to the Christian faith. Those who claim to be Christians, even in the name of Christianity, have committed acts of violence in the past. And this is just a fact. So we have, for example, the stories of the Crusades. We have the Spanish Inquisition. We have these historical incidents where people, in the name of Christ, they committed horrific acts. But no one does that, and if anyone does, that would be a huge mistake and an error and a crime to assign those crimes to the Christian faith. Now, in the Spanish Inquisition, all the Muslims and Jews of the entire Iberian Peninsula, where the Muslims had ruled for 900 years, they were either forced to convert or expelled or murdered. Right? This is a historic fact. It's undeniable across the board. People from all historians from various backgrounds agree on this. Whether it was when it was the Crusades, then in Jerusalem when it was taken over by the Crusaders, they massacred the entire civilian Muslim population. And in the mosques that we are sitting in now, on the Temple Mount, where the mosque known as Masjid al-Aqsa, third holiest mosque in Islam, where we believe the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven, the Muslims had taken refuge in the mosque like Christians take refuge in a church, with no respect for women or men, children or old. They were all massacred. The blood was flowing to the knees of the horses. And then to further defile the mosques, this minbar where we have the pulpit, where the imam speaks from, the pigs were slaughtered, because Muslims, we don't eat pork. So these horrific acts occurred. This is the reality. As recent as, we have the Irish Republican Army, they committed suicide attacks in London, the IRA. So terrorism knows no religion. Is not something that only Muslims have committed. Others have committed acts of terrorism too. When you talk about Jews have committed acts of terrorism as well. Hindus have committed acts of terrorism. The Tamil Tigers, they committed so many acts of suicide bombings in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is such a small island, but then they wanted their own independent homeland within a small island. So they had their political goals, they committed acts of terrorism. We have the Japanese, they're the farthest from the religion of Islam, have nothing to do with Muslims. But in World War II, they had suicide bombers. The kamikaze pilots, they would take their planes, and for the Imperial Emperor of Japan, for the sake of the Emperor of Japan, they would be willing to fly their planes into the ships, into the US Navy ships, in the Battle of Midway, in all these battles that took place in the Pacific theater of World War II. So what we see here is that these horrific acts have been committed by people of all religions and all backgrounds throughout time. And all these religions unanimously are against them. The great injustice and the sad part of the whole story and the tragedy is all of these are acts that are tragedies. All of these acts of injustice and oppression and killing and indiscriminate bombing and whatever the case may be, they're all horrific. And it's so sad that human beings can stoop to such depths. It's really sickening that human beings can ever do such acts of hurting each other. But the sad part is that when it comes to Islam, it's attributed to Islam. Where our religion cannot be more clear that these things are absolutely prohibited. Our religion is very, very clear. Yeah, we have a brother has a question. We can take the mic on this side. Okay. So our religion is very, very clear that these acts are not condoned by our religion. And God says in the Quran that فَكَأَنَّمَا قَتَلَ النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. If you kill even one person, it is such a horrific crime. It is as if you have committed a crime of killing the entire humanity. So there has been, this is what the current climate is that these acts that are committed by people who claim to be Muslims have been associated with Islam itself. Even though if you look at the facts, look at the population of Muslims, how many Muslims there are throughout the world, how many billions of Muslims there are, how many thousands and millions are living here in this country, and the vast, vast, vast majority of them are peaceful citizens. And there is this minority that they have their own political goals and they are hijacking our religion and committing acts of violence. So going back to your question, because people are associating this with Islam itself, this puts us in a very difficult time. And we as Muslims are suffering. Why? Because whenever any of these acts occur, for everyone it's a single tragedy. Loss of life is a great tragedy. But for us it's a double tragedy. Double tragedy in the sense that first is the sense of loss of what happened, and then on top of that, our name was maligned, our religion was hijacked and was abused by these people. So we feel doubly guilty. We feel so sad. We continue to express that we are against this. We, in whichever way possible, pretty much every Muslim feels that how can we apologize to people? How can we let people know what actions can we do to assure people that this is not our way? These people are not speaking in our name. And what's happening is that people, they come to us as imams and they are feeling the pain. The children in the schools are being bullied. Children in the playground, elementary school are being attacked by their students. Co-workers are feeling racism. Muslim sisters are facing it. So these incidents are occurring. And that is why it's very important that we have such events, and cannot congratulate you enough for coming out here. So you are in the front line against these misunderstandings, and we hope that you will take up this responsibility to go and dispel those misunderstandings out there within your communities. May God help you all. Thank you.
I'll read them. So we have a tremendous amount of questions, and as you can tell, Imam Minhaj is very thorough in his responses, mashallah. So ask wisely. So we have one question that came in. Can you explain food and diet restrictions? How hard is this to practice?
So there's somebody who loves food out here. So yeah, food and diet restrictions, basically, it's not hard for us. What is hard, what is not hard, that's very subjective, right? So it's, basically our religion teaches us that يُحِلُّ لَهُمُ الطَّيِّبَاتِ وَيُحَرِّمُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْخَبَائِثِ. That which is pure and wholesome, God has made lawful for you. That which is harmful to you, God has made unlawful for you. So we believe that, we don't have strict dietary restrictions like the Jews have. The kosher laws are actually more strict. Certain things cannot be mixed and eaten at the same time. Our restrictions are much, much easier. So the only thing, of course, I mentioned earlier already is that pork is prohibited for us. But besides that, we are not strict vegetarians like Hindus are. We can eat meat, but when an animal is slaughtered, it has to be slaughtered with the name of God. So there's a particular ritual that is taken at the time of slaughtering an animal, and if it's done in the humane manner, there are certain guidelines that animal welfare is a part of our teachings, and that they should, if those guidelines are met, then it is permissible to consume animals. Of course, the big prohibition besides pork is alcohol. Alcohol is a major prohibition in our religion. So if you want to look at the map of the dry countries in the world, that pretty much is the Muslim world. So of course, the Quran says about alcohol, قُلْ فِيهِمَا إِثْمٌ كَبِيرٌ وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ وَإِثْمُهُمَا أَكْبَرُ مِنْ نَفْعِهِمَا. That there is some benefit in alcohol, but the harms outweigh the benefits. So in case your doctors tell you that it's healthy for your heart to have so many ounces of wine a day, right? So the Quran, you guys say it's impermissible. Well, the Quran itself says that فِي مَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ, there is benefit in wine. This is over 1400 years ago. The Quran says there is benefit in wine. Then it says وَإِثْمُهُمَا أَكْبَرُ مِنْ نَفْعِهِمَا, but the harms of it outweigh the benefits. So that's why we abstain from it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for opening this beautiful house of worship to us to enjoy today. I would like, as a Baha'i, I'm specifically interested in any interfaith gatherings that you may have going on into the future, and whether there are ways specifically that we can learn how to be allies.
Yes, so basically, that's a very good question. Interfaith is important in this day and age, that those who are faithful of various different faiths, we get together and in commonality in those teachings that we uphold, and we become a united force for goodness. So I would request that you leave your contact information, and then members of the mosque, we can get together with you offline and communicate further to hold some interfaith events. We are a part of the DuPage United as well, our mosque, which is an organization of various mosques and churches and synagogues, and that is one union that we belong to. And there are other interfaith platforms as well that we can discuss. Thank you very much.
Again, thank you for the invitation today. I have a simple question. I know in the Christian faith there are many denominations. Is the Islamic faith, do you guys have any denominations as such?
Yeah, so basically, the question is regarding denominations. So the vast majority of Muslims follow, the greatest percentage follow Sunni Islam. One thing unique about our religion is that the major source of law is the Quran, and the Quran there's only one version. and it has been preserved. So there aren't different versions, like we have different versions of the Bible or we have different versions of other books. There's only one version. And all the words are in the exact same order and preserved through memory, as well as in the print form now. Initially, it used to be preserved through memory. And the child would memorize the Quran and would be known as a hafiz, a protector of the book of God. So we have one book and we have one set of traditions of the Prophet. There are slight interpretations and differences in interpretation, but overall, the major split that is there is the Shias that have come in the news recently, the Shias versus the Sunnis. So about 80% approximately of the Muslim nation are Sunnis, and the Shias are 15 to 20%. And this was originally a political divide that occurred regarding who should be the successor of the Prophet Muhammad in leadership. Was it his close friend and trusted aide and companion Abu Bakr as the first caliph to take over the responsibility of leading the Muslim nation after Prophet Muhammad left the world, or his nephew or his cousin and son-in-law Ali? So that's where it started from. Who deserves to take the position of leadership? Trump or Hillary Clinton? So just like we have the red states and the blue states, political division, likewise, this was a political divide that started, and then it took on religious overtones afterwards.
I'm going to follow up with that. We have two additional questions that kind of align themselves, Imam Minhaj. The first question is, do all Muslims memorize the Quran? And then also, can you explain the relationship between Sharia law and Islam?
Do all Muslims memorize the Quran? All Muslims memorize some portions of the Quran. Every child memorizes some portion of the Quran. Some of those that are more dedicated, they end up memorizing the entire Quran. And what is the relationship between Sharia and Islam? Basically, Sharia is another word that, a lot of alarm bells start ringing because the way it's been portrayed. And I highly urge everyone, since you came out, take the food in the lobby and try all the different savories and all of that for sure. But don't miss out on my left and your right on that side and the hall. I believe on the other side as well. We have a booth with a lot of these brochures, and these are all the FAQs. There is a whole brochure on Sharia, on women's rights in Islam, on the hijab, Islamic extremism, misconceptions about Islam. These are really well written and to the point and have references, and you can take them with you and study them, and you will find them very enlightening. So I'm very indebted to our brothers from ICNA, both the Gain Peace and Why Islam organizations. They have prepared these brochures, and we have to give them the credit. A very good job they have done. That's why I was asking them that how come the informational booths are in the side prayer halls and the food took over? We made the food the main item in the main hall, but the volunteers said that there's not enough space. I wish this was in the main hall actually. So do go to the side halls on the right and left and pick up these brochures. It will answer a lot of your questions. So there is a whole thing about Sharia as well. Do read that. Whoever asked the question, everyone should read it, in fact. And basically, Sharia is a complete code of life. A code of life that governs from birth, how we should deal with the new baby, the rituals, all the way to death and the prayers before dying. It governs how a person should treat his wife, how the wife should treat the husband, how parents should treat children, parents, siblings, neighbors, how we should do business, conduct business, economic system, judicial system. All of these things are part of the complete Islamic code of life. That is what the Sharia is. So Sharia is how we implement the orders of God in our lives. Sharia is only binding on those who are Muslims. Sharia is not binding on those who are non-Muslims. Per the Sharia. That's what the Sharia says. The Sharia itself says that it is not binding on non-Muslims. It's not that non-Muslims say that, or non-Muslims feel like they don't have to practice Sharia, but this is what the Sharia itself says. For example, in our books of jurisprudence and Islamic law and Sharia, I teach Sharia. There's one famous statement that some of the students were laughing when I read this out in class. It was, Al-khamru lahum kal-khalli lana, wal-khinziru lahum kashati lana. That when it comes to wine, wine for for those who are not Muslims, the rulings are just like vinegar for us. And when it comes to wal khinziru lahum, pork and pig and byproducts of pig, kashati lana, it is like goats for us. Meaning, just like it is permissible for Muslims to buy and sell goat meat or buy and sell vinegar and consume it, likewise it is permissible in Sharia law for non-Muslims. It's completely legitimate for them to use these things. Because, as we mentioned earlier, freedom of religion is enshrined in our deen, in our religion. In the Quran, it says, La ikraha fi din, there's no compulsion in faith. So that's why Sharia law is not something for non-Muslims to be scared of. Muslims have to be observant of it, or should be, or supposed to be. But it doesn't apply to non-Muslims at all.
We have a few questions in the audience, I think, and there's someone who wants a mic up here after that. Okay, so we'll start here. Thank you. Please stand by for technical difficulties.
Testing. Thanks for having me. My question is regards to the 5 prayer times. Can you expound on that? For example, is any one more important than the other? Is there a specific day, or just whatever you can add regarding prayer?
So yeah, there are 5 prayer times. Basically, it sounds really, wow, 5 times a day. How do you do that? But each prayer is very, very short. And we'll end with the midday prayer today, so you can observe it. It's not very long at all. The concept is that we are at all times, all our wakeful hours, conscious of God. So right when we wake up, their first prayer, the time is before sunrise. It starts from dawn, the break of dawn to sunrise. So it has to be concluded before sunrise. So in the summer months, it gets really early. 5:45, 5:50, 5:30, even 4. We pray 4:45, 5 o'clock. We are praying. People come here in the morning. And in the month of Ramadan, this whole mosque is filled until outside. Before, if you come 5 a.m. in the morning, the whole place will be filled with Muslims praying. Not throughout. I don't want to make it more beautiful than it is. It's just in the month of Ramadan they all come out. It's like the churches are overflowing in Christmas season, or in Easter time. So then what happens is, otherwise we just have 2 lines, and then we have the second prayer is midday, and then the third prayer is in the afternoon, and the fourth prayer is right after sunset, and the fifth prayer is before you go to sleep. So a few minutes of reflection and remembrance of God at all times throughout the day. So we never forget about God and the blessings He has given us.
We have another question?
Yes. Hello. Thank you very much for this opportunity of asking questions. My question goes more to the teachings of the Islam. I was wondering, what is the explanation for evil and wrongdoing in the Islamic teachings? Evil and wrongdoing. Why people do what is not supposed to be doing. And
yeah, so the question is, please correct me if I didn't understand. You're asking, what does Islam say about evil? Why people do evil? Why people do wrongdoing? Yeah, basically, our religion teaches us that, in our religion, the understanding of that is that there is a right path that has been defined by God, and within us, we have our own internal angelic nature, but at the same time, we have an animalistic, passionate nature within us that we have to the carnal desires of the self, that we have to learn to overpower and control. That takes us towards wrong. That's the internal struggle that we all have in our lives, the internal good force and the bad force. And then externally as well, there are angels that inspire us towards good, and good company and good peer pressure and good sermons and good environments that take us towards good. At the same time, there are evil companions, evil people, and evil devils that inspire us towards evil and wickedness. So a combination of the inner self, carnal self, as well as the outer forces of evil, they take people towards the direction of evil and falsehood and committing wrongs and atrocities that we all witness and abhor. May God protect us from these.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me. I have a question. Have Jewish people and Muslim people only had problems recently because of Israel, or have they always had conflicts?
Yeah, basically, Jewish people and Muslim people have coexisted throughout centuries of Islamic history. For example, when the Spanish Inquisition occurred, when the Jews were expelled from Spain, because for 900 years under Muslim leadership, they were thriving in Spain. Many of the great Jewish philosophers and physicians, their works were studied in the universities of Europe throughout, the era of the Renaissance. They were actually under Muslim rule. They not only survived, but they flourished under Muslim rule. But then they were expelled by the Christians. That's so ironic. They were expelled and exterminated by the Christians who came into Spain. And then who took in the Jewish refugees? Sultan Bayezid, the Ottoman Sultan, the Ottoman Muslim ruler of Turkey, took in the Jewish refugees from Spain that were expelled by the Christians. This is such ironic turn of fate of events that what's happening now compared to what happened before. So this is a testimony. The Jews, they lived in Palestine with the Muslims in Yemen as well. So they have historically lived together in the same pieces, in the same areas for centuries. And then, of course, recently what happened after the breakup of the Ottoman Empire in World War I, then the British government, it made a promise with Sharif Hussein, who was the governor of Mecca, that if you stand up in revolt against the Ottoman Caliph, they went and they created the nationalism within the Arabs, that you should revolt against the Turkish rulers. Why do you follow your Turkish Caliph? We will grant you a kingdom. So they promised the land of Palestine to Sharif Hussein. This will be your kingdom, United Arabian Kingdom. All you have to do is help us. This is where you might have heard of Lawrence of Arabia, the famous movie, right? This is where Lawrence of Arabia came in. He was a British agent helping the Arabs in the revolt against the Ottoman ruler. So that land was promised to them. Then there were original Palestinians living there. Then Lord Balfour, he wrote the declaration that he promises a land for the Jews. So the same piece of land, the British diplomats, what they did is they promised 3 different people at the same time. They said to the Jews, this will be for you. He wrote a letter to Rothschild, the Jewish banker, that this land is for you. Then he told the Palestinians they can continue to stay there. And then he told Sharif Hussein, this will be for you. So the same piece of land, these are historical facts, anyone can check it up, was promised to 3 different people. So the original Palestinian people who were living there, they became refugees in their own land, in their own country. And then they were forcefully moved out of their homes in 1940s. And they were expelled from there. And then from there on, the fights has continued till today. So this Middle East problem was a manufactured, created problem, unfortunately.
Hello. I just wanted to say thank you for expending hospitality to everybody today. My question, as an American, the concept of jihad is often associated with terrorism. In my studies, I've attempted to kind of get a better understanding of what it means. Some people say it means it's this concept of holy war. Some people say some people say that it refers to an internal struggle. Can you please provide clarity on the concept of jihad and kind of what that is for me, please?
I can ask, I'll say something and I'll give my panelists to say something as well. So, yeah, basically jihad is an internal struggle, primarily an internal struggle. Why? How can we say this? It's because many of the verses pertaining to jihad that come in the Quran, if you historically analyze them, some of them were revealed in the Meccan era, where the Prophet was a minority under the polytheist pagan rule of Mecca. And over there, for example, God says, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. This is a Meccan verse, that those who struggle in our path, God will guide them and will show them the path towards Him. So there was no armed struggle, yet the word jihad is being used in the Quran. So this indicates that jihad is not necessarily an armed struggle. It is a struggle with the nafs that I spoke about earlier when the sister asked a question regarding why do people commit evil. So you have that evil nature within you, so you have to do jihad against that. That is in fact the true jihad. The Prophet said, Al-Mujahid man jahada nafsahu fi ta'atillah. The true mujahid, one who does jihad, is the one who does jihad in struggles against his inner carnal self. Al-Mujahid, the true Mujahid, is the one who does struggle against his carnal self. And of course, I'm not going to deny the fact that the Quran does give permission, and all religions and all societies have this right of self-defense. So the Quran says, فَإِن قَاتَلُوكُمْ فَاقْتُلُوهُم, that if they fight against you, then you must defend yourself. Likewise, if you look at the ayats regarding, or the verses talking about combat, what does the Quran say? أُذِنَ لِلَّذِينَ يُقَاتَلُونَ بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا. Now the permission has been granted for those who have been oppressed and were tortured and persecuted in Makkah. The Muslims were persecuted in Makkah, and then they went as refugees to the neighboring Christian country. I talked about how the Christians expelled the Jews from Spain, but at the same time, different times in history, you'll find different events. The Christians were the ones who actually took in the Muslim refugees in Ethiopia. And the Christian king, the Negus of Abyssinia, he was a Christian. He is, in Arabic, is known as Najashi. He took in the Muslim refugees. And the pagans of Makkah, they came to Abyssinia, and they bribed the king. They gave him gifts, and they said, hand over these Muslims to us. And he called them into the court. He said, no, I have to hear their side of the story too, because he was fair and just. This is in our tradition, in our history. And when he asked the companions of the Prophet, what do you believe in? They recited the verses from chapter Mary. And that was a very good choice. And they showed him what the Quran says about Jesus and Mary. And he was so overwhelmed by that. And he said that your teachings are very much in line with ours. I will not hand you over. You are protected in my land. And the Christian king protected the Muslim refugees in Abyssinia, which was the old name of Ethiopia, off the coast of East Africa. So we find that these people were persecuted. So the Quran says, now that you have been expelled from your homes, the Prophet himself had to migrate to Medina, that you may reclaim your own land, you may guard yourselves, you may defend yourselves. And those are where the verses of fighting are found. Many of the Islamophobes, because Islamophobia is a particular industry now, and there are think tanks that are out there promoting it, and they are so-called experts that their whole goal is to create hatred of Muslims in the minds of beautiful, innocent American people, and to make them develop hatred against Islam and Muslims. As a student of religion, a student of the Quran, and a teacher of Quranic sciences, it is so hurtful for me when I see people who are unfortunately reaching wrong conclusions. That's fine. But those who are intentionally misquoting, taking verses out of context, and coming to absolutely wrong conclusions. For example, they take the verse, فَقْتُلُوهُمْ حَيْثُ وَجَدْتُمُوهُمْ, that you may fight against them wherever you find them. But look at the verse before that. It's talking about those who are diehard polytheists, pagans, who have been attacking and raiding Muslim lands. Then when you find these criminals, you may fight against them. So the previous verse is taken out, the second verse is mentioned. So that is a grave injustice. Thank you very much.
We have a question. We have a question here.
Yeah, actually, time has passed since my original question, and you partially answered my original question because it was the question about your personal experience in DuPage County, which you did finally get around to, so thank you very much. But what you did get around to was that some kids are experiencing bullying. So really, I would love to hear more, and this is a plural you know, all of you panelists. What has been your personal experience here in DuPage County, and those that you know? But the other one, since I've got the mic, and it's a quick one, I think, I texted this question, and it is, I've known a lot of Muslims over the span of my life. I've had good friends with many of them. What's interesting to me is almost all of them, although they're talking to me in English, when they come to, you know, as you rightly said, Allah means God. But when they come to the name of God, they suddenly shift to Arabic, you know, even though they're talking in English. And what that does is it kind of raises an unnecessary wall there, you know. And I've always wondered, why do they do that?
Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to?
Hello?
Sure. Okay. All right. I'd like to answer the second part of your question first. So, yeah, that's often the case. Muslims, when they refer to God, they use the Arabic, right? Allah. Okay, so in the past, I personally used to advocate this as well, that it's, although you can refer to God as God, it's preferable to refer to Him as Allah. The reason being is because the word Allah in the Arabic language, for example, the word God has a masculine and a feminine form, right? God and goddesses. Similarly, the word God has a plural as well, right? Gods. Whereas when it comes to the word Allah, there is no concept of gender, masculinity versus femininity, and there's no concept of plurality. So in that sense, there's no English equivalent for the word Allah. That's why generally, like in the past, Muslim scholars have always, or many of them have advocated that the word Allah should be used to refer to God, even in the English language. However, I now take a different stance for the same reason that you mentioned, because when you only use the word Allah to refer to God, it creates this barrier, and it seems to indicate that it's some sort of alien God that they worship, and sometimes it reinforces like misconceptions that people have that Allah is not the God of Abraham and Moses, right? It's some sort of moon god that people worship in the Arabian Peninsula, which are obviously complete misconceptions. But I think sometimes when we don't use the word God to refer to God, it kind of reinforces these, negative impressions that people have. As far as the first part of your question goes, I've lived in DuPage County for a number of years, and I think pretty much like every single Muslim in America can mention certain incidences of, maybe some sort of racism or like a racist remark or a negative comment. However, I've spent a number of years overseas as well. I studied in Cairo in Al-Azhar University, and I can honestly say that the treatment I've received in America, in a population that's majority non-Muslim, is a lot better than the way I was treated in Cairo, where the population is majority Muslim, right? So definitely these incidences of bullying or Islamophobia, they're serious things, they need to be addressed. However, at the same time, I think that it's not good to have kind of like a victim mentality, because that's not, productive, right? So that's what I would say. I think we have to have that balance, like try to address these incidences, but at the same time appreciate the fact that we're living in this country where there's a much greater degree of tolerance than we would receive even in other Muslim countries.
Hello. Salam alaikum. I'm Jewish, and we share a lot of similarities. We're both from the seed of Abraham. In the Jewish religion, men keep their heads covered, even though I don't. And I see that in Islam you do too. Can you explain why men keep their heads covered at all times? Thank you.
So basically, covering the head doesn't have any very symbolic doesn't signify anything very deeply symbolic, but rather it was just a part of the complete dress of a Muslim. The Quran says, "Ya bani Adam, khudhu zinatakum 'inda kulli masjid." That, O bani Adam, O children of Adam, when you go to perform the prayer, then cover yourself in the complete manner. So it's considered part of the complete dress. So just like in Western cultures, people used to wear hats as well. And as I mentioned, women used to wear bonnets. So this is considered part of the complete dress. It doesn't have any particular religious undertone to it as such. Thank you.
In the Quran, there are two verses, 355, Al Imran 55. In English, the verse is like this: I will cause you to die and raise you to myself. This is speaking about Jesus. Allah is telling, I will cause you to die and lift you to myself. That is one verse. The second verse is, I am blessed when I am born, when I die, and when I am raised to life. These two verses seem to teach about or stress that Jesus was dead and also was raised from the dead, from the grave. So how do you explain that, sir? Muslims believe that he did not die, but he was simply raised without dying. But these two verses seem to say Jesus really died. Allah says, I will cause you to die. 355.
Okay, so this verse is talking about, first one he's saying is that God says, إِذْ قَالَ اللَّهُ يَا عِيسَى إِنِّي مُتَوَفِّيكَ وَرَافِعُكَ إِلَيَّ وَمُطَهِّرُكَ. This is the verse he's talking about. Second verse he's talking about is سَلَامٌ عَلَيَّ يَوْمَ وُلِدْتُ وَيَوْمَ أَمُوتُ وَيَوْمَ أُبْعَثُ حَيًّا. So these are the two verses, the actual Arabic of what you are referring to. So, so we believe, yes, that we just talked about the birth of Jesus. Briefly I touched upon, but I did not talk about what the Muslim concept is of the end of Jesus. So we believe that Jesus was a messenger of God. If a person says that, I believe in Muhammad, but I don't believe Jesus is a messenger of God, he will not be a Muslim. One of the conditions to be a Muslim is you have to believe in all the previous prophets. So we have to believe in Jesus as a prophet of God. And what do we believe about his ending? What we think about his ending, what our belief is. Now I want to qualify that this is a different narrative, right? This is a different narrative than the Christian narrative. So I don't want to step on anyone's toes here. I'm qualifying my statement by this is what Muslims believe. I'm not preaching this is what you must believe, or I'm asking you or recommending you or anything. I'm just educating you. This is the Muslim version. So the Muslim version of the story is that bottom line at the end of the long story, when the Jews they were not happy with some of the teachings of Jesus, and they complained to the Roman generals who were ruling over Palestine at that time, and then his house was surrounded by the Roman soldiers, and they were going to take him and crucify him as a heretic. So at that point, the Quran says in this verse that إِنِّي مُتَوَفِّيكَ وَرَافِعُكَ إِلَيَّ, that I will elevate you and I will take you back. And what we believe is that literally he was like airlifted out of there. We believe that the angels came onto the home that he was surrounded by, and he was taken up by the angels into the heavens. And one of the traders who was with him, God made his face to look like him, and then he was dragged and he was killed, but Jesus was saved. A big carnal version of the Islam, point to note in the Muslim version is that we believe Jesus was saved and he was taken up alive. And when we talk about death, like the questioner is asking about death, is that we believe that he will come back. So this part of the story is similar, that there is a return of Christ. That return of Christ element is part of our narrative too, that Jesus will come back. And when he comes back, it will be a great time where all the Christians and Muslims will get together again and unite, and he will explain what happened to him. This is mentioned as a beautiful end of time story when he will return back. And when he comes back, he will continue to lead his earthly life, and after that he will die. So when God speaks about death, or when Jesus says, Salamun alayya yawma wulidtu wa yawma amutu, peace be upon me the day I was born and the day I will die. So the day of death of Jesus has not occurred yet per the Muslim narrative. So that is the answer to the contradiction there, apparent contradiction. Thank you.
So at this point, we're going to pause just after this question here. What we're going to do, just as a quick announcement, as a debriefer, what we're going to do is we're going to pause for the afternoon prayers. And everyone is invited to observe this. We'll give a quick brief explanation as to that as well. And as a note, we will have a question and answer session that will continue after the prayer. For the Muslim brothers and sisters, the Sunnah prayer will be deferred. So after the Fara'id prayer, we're just going to go right back into the question and answer session to answer as many questions as we can. And 2 quick points as well. If you are filling out your surveys, please do make sure that you give them over to one of the staff members before you leave, so that we can evaluate that feedback and improve our event, etc. As well, there's tons of food outside, so please feel free to help yourself to seconds, thirds, if you're like me, fourths. So we shall begin with our prayer, inshallah. After this question here. Yes. The raffle ticket will also, we'll announce that afterwards, after the prayer. Yeah, oh, if you didn't know, I'm sorry, my misunderstanding here. There is a raffle ticket, so all the individuals who have raffle tickets, we have several different prizes, so do stick around for that. Included in those prizes, it's just a random drawing. We got Bulls Jazz tickets, Cubs Brewers tickets, Benihana gift cards, UFC gym memberships, Starbucks gift cards, and some traditional Arabic sweets as well. So don't hand those tickets to anybody. Keep them yourself. All right. Your question, please.
Okay. I have more of a personal question. I live over here in Willow Lakes apartment. This has been my home for 12 years. Can you hear me? No. Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. I've lived over here for 12 years, so it has been changing, and we're having more Muslim people move into our buildings. And my concern or my question for you is there is a separation between men and women. And when I walk in, everybody is my neighbor, so I like to say hi to them and talk to them or whatever. But when the Muslim men come in, it's been making me very nervous because you'll say hi and you'll talk to them. They will not get on the elevator. They will not acknowledge you. They will peel down the hall and go a different way. So could you, we're a community. And we watch out for each other, so it's kind of hard when you're kind of getting that silence and people aren't communicating. So can you kind of speak about the differences between men and women?
No, I'm very sad that you had to have that bad experience. That should not be the case. Our religion teaches us that smiling is an act of charity. And the Prophet said, "La tahqiranna min al-ma'rufi shay'a walau an talqa akhaka biwajhin taliq." Do not belittle and look down upon any good deed, even if it may be to smile at your brother or sister. So smiling is an act of charity, and courteous behavior is something that should be expected from all people of all faiths. So this should not be reflective. Like I said, Islam teaches something, but there may be weakness in the practice of those teachings. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, and we're going to go and visit all those people who live there and teach them not to behave like that. Yeah, the Prophet said, "Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir falyukrim ضيفه jarahu." That one who believes in God in the last day should honor his neighbor. And he mentioned the rights of neighbors to such an extent that the companion said, the next thing we thought is that when a person dies, the neighbor will get a share of the inheritance. Yeah.
All right, so just a quick couple of announcements. What we're going to do is we're going to set this front row up here for the congregational prayer for our brothers and sisters in the community. For those who may not be able to fit in the front rows, that's okay. We have the side hall, so we're going to clear up some space in the side hall. So if you just bear with us for just a few moments, maybe this would be a great time to fill out those surveys to help us understand how we can better these events, as well as answer any questions that you might have. And again, please do leave those surveys with one of our staff members here such that we can take that communication from you. Ladies and gentlemen, as we prepare to get started with the question and answer session, again, there's several seats up front that are available. So if you are standing in the back or sitting in the back, you're welcome to move forward, get a better seat if you'd like. Also, as an additional announcement, we have booths in the West Wing, I think it is. Yeah, the West Wing, which is the wing to your left. And that is booths for hijab, understanding hijab, wearing the hijab. If you'd like to try one on, you're welcome to. We also have henna booth as well, which is the plant-based dye, which is temporary, which individuals will do some artwork on the skin and kind of give you an idea a little bit about our culture as well. So. Oh, we have a question. Okay, sure.
Is that right? All right.
Okay, we have our first question back in the question and answer session.
Fantastic program, excellently done. I was so pleased with how many people said, hey, can I help you? Not just volunteers, just people greeting, and that was beautiful. But I do have a concern, too. not for the wider Muslim community, but this mosque in particular. I think many people here would know that the Quran, like in Surah Ahzab, specifically says that Muhammad is what's called the Uswa Hasana, right? لَقَدْ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. And in Surah Maryam it says, أَطِيعُوا Allah wa أَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولِ. But when we look at, that's like Muhammad's the perfect model or excellent model, right? And obey God and obey the Prophet. But there are things in the life of Muhammad that are certainly objectionable to the overwhelming majority of Americans. He had 9 wives at least. He had Miriam the Copt as a long-term concubine. He married his former adopted son's previous wife, Zainab. And according to many Sunni sources, he may have been, when he was 53, married to a girl that was 9. How will this mosque navigate the times when Muhammad, as an example, either conflicts with our laws or our social mores? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So basically, you mentioned a few things, so I'll try to touch on them one by one. One of them you mentioned was about the wives. So in our religion, it is not permitted to have 9 wives. That it is not something that we follow the Prophet Muhammad, and in fact, is strictly prohibited. And polygamy was something that is not unique to Islam or Muslim culture. It was widely practiced if you study anthropology in societies in the past throughout the world. If you study the Bible, for example, as well, you have examples of David and Solomon. They're having harems of hundreds of concubines, not just one that you mentioned, but hundreds. So this was something that was found in the past in other cultures as well. But this is not something that is encouraged or practiced now. In America, as you said, currently, we are all just, barely trying to keep our one marriage intact. That is, we are struggling with that. And it's not something promoted or something that we will receive rewards for. That was just something that historically happened in those days, in those times. When it comes to, what else did you mention? Oh, yeah, there are differences of opinion regarding the age of Aisha. Some narrations say that she was 16, 14. Others have mentioned she was younger. What we do know about the Prophet Muhammad is that in the age of when premarital relations were absolutely common, and he remained completely abstinent up to the age of 25. He didn't have any premarital intercourse with any woman, or premarital relations at all. He remained completely chaste. Then, after the age of 25, his first marriage was to a woman, Khadija, who was 40 years old, was previously twice married and had children from her previous marriages. He married her. And then when he was married to her, she was his only wife the entire time. And she's the one who bore his children, his daughters. So that is what we know. Afterwards, there were many political considerations in uniting different tribes and different regions, different political purposes why he got married. When a person is in the prime of his youth and his youthful passions are at the extreme, if he wanted to be a womanizer, that was the time to be a womanizer. And literally, God forbid. In fact, in many of the early days in Mecca, the polytheists and pagans, they approached him with different offers. And they said, give up this call towards the oneness of God, and we'll get you whatever wealth you want. We will amass all the wealth and ensure you're the wealthiest man in Mecca. And we will give you all the beautiful girls you want. If that is what your physical, sensual pleasure is your goal, we will provide that for you. But give up this call. And he gave his famous reply that if you go into the heavens and bring the sun and put it in my right hand, and bring the moon and put it in my left hand, I will not give up this call towards the oneness of God. So the evidence shows that he was not going after fulfilling his passions, but rather during this entire youthful period of his life, he either remained abstinent or had one wife. And then there were other particular goals and purposes for those marriages that occurred towards the end of his life. For example, each one has its own unique story. Many of them were widows. And there was the Safiya bint Huyay bin Akhtab, who was from the Jewish tribe. So he wanted to create affinity with the Jewish people. And this was how the tribal leaders did at that time, by making them all his in-laws. So all the Jews became his in-laws. So we have to understand things in the proper context. That is not what is happening today. And if it is, that is not Islamic. Anyone who may be doing that is not following the teachings of Islam. We do not preach that, nor do we practice that here. Thank you.
We're going to pause real quick just because there are some people leaving and we just wanted to do the raffle here. That's also very important. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call out these numbers and Brother Fahim is going to hand out some of these prizes. So up first is our one tray of mixed sweets. So that's raffle number 786833. We got Bing. Oh, yep, there we go. There we go. First round winner. We get a round hand. That's awesome. Okay. We also got ticket number 786818. 786818. I don't know what the rules are if they're not present. We give them a little time? Okay, so 786818. Raffle ticket number 786818. We got that? Negative? Next one. All right, here we go. 786898. Raffle ticket number 786898. Raffle ticket number 786898. Just go ahead and put that one aside. I'll take it home. Raffle ticket number 786825. Raffle ticket number 786825. Do we got a bingo? I thought I saw somebody. No? Okay, 786825. That's a winner. There we go. Okay, awesome. And then the 818. I think it's a winner. Everybody think that's a winner? I think that's a winner. All right, awesome. That's a winner. All right, so two more of those. So 786824. 786824. 786824. No? Okay, move on to the next one. 786881. 786881. Should have done this earlier. I think people left. 786881. No? All right. What's your number? Yeah, what's your? Yeah, that's that one right here. Yep. That's awesome. She's been smiling at me all the time, so I was just like, I had to do something. Okay, all right. 786789. 786789. Anybody? Is there a little kid like sweets? Where's anybody? I saw some little kids. I saw Elliot here. Oh, okay. We got a winner. 786789. Awesome. Fantastic. Okay, now $50 Starbucks gift card. Here we go. 786928. We got a 786928. 786928. Negative? 786-928. No? Okay. Do we have a Julie in the second row? Oh, she's the winner. Julie in the second row. All right, awesome. Yep, that works. Okay. 786980. Oh, we're raffling off a 1-month gym membership to the USC. Oh, we got one. Okay, so we got one winner here. So that's 786980. Is that right? It is now. All right, awesome. Okay, and we got another 1 month gym membership to the UFC gym membership. That's 786-906. 786-906. Anybody? No? No, 78609. Okay. Next one, 786-908. All right, we got another winner. All right, so the last UFC gym membership goes to 786-869. 786-869. 786-869. No? Okay. Do we have an Angelica that's sitting to my right in the third row? There we go. That's the winner. That's the winner. All right, now, one of my favorite places, $100 Benihana gift card. Here we go. Okay, pull out the tickets. You can win twice, technically. 786-861. Oh, Bob, second row. Boom. $100 gift card to Benihana. Congratulations. And what an honorable man. He's like, here's my ticket to verify. All right, so now here's some two tickets to the Cubs versus Brewers on April 17th. All right, here we go. 786-784. Oh, we got a winner. I should have called these earlier. I think that's okay, great, awesome. And then the last two tickets here, the grand prize, I guess, if you will. If you're a Chicago fan, you know them well. They're the Chicago Bulls versus the Utah Jazz. Epic historical game. So here, two tickets, Bulls versus Jazz, March 18th. I'm sorry? Yep, March 18th. Here we go. 786-989. 786-989. Last call, 786-989. All right. Here's the next ticket, 786-818. Well, this is the reason why we didn't have one, because both tickets are here. 786-818. Someone, that was a little slip up there. How about 786-781? 786-781. Last call, 786-781. I don't see that. All right, here we go. This is it. You pick. You're probably, I think that's probably why it's not working too. All right, here we go. 786-887. 786-887. Last call. 786-887. All right. Maybe we need another one. Oh, this one. Okay, 786-849. 786-849. No? And something is ending in 848, I think. 841. He gave me 841. I got to go with what he says. 786-841. 786-841. Anybody? No? I got to go. Oh, did we win? Do we have a winner? No? Oh, okay. 935. Last three digits. 935. I got to go by the books on this one. I can't call it. Is there a Stewart in the fourth row on the right? Yep, Stewart, fourth row. That's it. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Chicago Bulls. Stewart, you must be an advertising marketing major. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so we'll get back into that question-answer session, so sorry about that. We just wanted to make sure we got those out before. We do have a question ready in the front second row. Please.
I think that's me. So first of all, this has been extremely informative and actually quite enjoyable, so thank you for doing this. So my question is, as just an ordinary person now going back into the working daily routine and whatever, what is the message that we can take back to overcome this fear and paranoia that's out there all the time? I don't want to get into arguments. I don't want to go out protesting, but I definitely want to spread the right message. So if you have a suggestion on what we can take back, I would really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming out. Actually, the biggest message that you can take out is that you could say that I personally visited a mosque, I met the Muslims, I heard from the imams, and I had the experience. Get to know Muslims. Don't form opinions based on what you heard on the radio, what you see on TV, what you read, but rather get to know Muslims. Go to a mosque, go to an open mosque event, and learn from the source. And you will be educated, you'll be enlightened, just like I was. And they are just another Abrahamic faith like we are. And violence occurs by people of all different faiths and who claim to adhere to a faith, and the faith is wrongly accused of that. And that is the same case what is happening with Islam today. Thank you very much. As many people are leaving now, I just want to give a vote of thanks to Brother Tipu and the rest of the volunteers who did an amazing job. Also, Dr. Sabil is here from ICNA, Gain Peace. If you want to appreciate his coming out and setting up the booth, I highly encourage everyone, as I mentioned earlier, whether you get your henna tattoo or not, or check out the hijab booth or the calligraphy booth, but do definitely stop by, pick up those some pamphlets, and you can take for your loved ones as well. Thank you very much.
Questions or continue? We do have some questions. Please feel free to answer. We do have some time yet, so please.
Hello. Thank you for having everyone here. It's been a great time, very informative. To the Christian community, at a certain level, the only question that matters is who is Jesus? And we have very, very different perspectives on who Jesus was, okay, as far as Messiah, part of the Trinity, his deity, versus just being one of the prophets. That said, does the Islamic tradition look forward to a Messiah who will come in the future and atone for the sins and cover the sins of the believers, or does the Messiah look different to Islam?
So we believe that we actually believe in a Messiah as well, who will, that we cannot enter paradise based on our own actions. This is something that the Prophet Muhammad said, that no one can enter paradise based on his own actions. So then the companions asked him, what about you, even yourself? Can you enter paradise based on your actions? He said, no, إِلَّا أَن يَتَغَمَّدِنِيَ اللَّهُ بِرَحْمَتِهِ. I cannot enter paradise until I am enshrouded and covered with the mercy of God. So we believe that God himself is the one who will forgive our sins. We are all sinful and none of us are sinless. The Prophet said that كُلُّ بَنِي آدَمَ خَطَّاءُونَ. All of the children of Adam are sinners. وَخَيْرُ الْخَطَّائِينَ التَّوَّابُونَ. The best of the sinners are those who seek forgiveness. So we seek forgiveness from God. The purpose of doing good works and abstaining from sins is to get the grace of God and the mercy of God. Once a person attains that through what we call the fadl of God, meaning the bounty of God, you will be able to enter Jannah, paradise. So sometimes it is wrongfully mentioned that Christians believe Jesus died for their sins, and whereas Muslims believe that they're going to enter paradise based on their own actions. We cannot enter paradise based on our own actions. We believe in the mercy of God directly. Thank you very much.
Hello. So you just talked about sins, and so what is the Muslim equivalent of repentance? How do you go about that?
Yeah. How do you repent in Islam? How you repent in our faith is basically there's 3 elements when it pertains to a right of God, and 4 if it pertains to a right of a fellow human being. First is you have sincere regret over the past commission of the act. Number 2 is you absolutely abstain from it in the present, you stop it. Number 3 is you make a firm determination not to repeat it in the future. And fourthly is if it pertains to someone else's right, like you unlawfully took someone's money or you backbited somebody, or you hurt someone's feelings, then you seek their forgiveness as well and return the stolen item back to them. Return what you took unlawfully. If you took someone's money, you can't just repent to God and say, God, forgive me. You have to return the stolen item back. You have to have sincere regret over the past. You can't continue the sin and seek forgiveness. You're still continuing the sin and you're seeking forgiveness. No, you have to stop it in the present, and you have to have a firm resolve not to repeat it in the future. However, if you end up breaking your resolve and you repeat the sin, no problem, you can repent again. If you continue to break your promise to God and you continue to sin, 100 times you break your promise, 101st time you can make the promise again. The only condition is for the repentance to be accepted is that every time you have to be sincere, that you actually have the genuine intention not to repeat it. Not like, yeah, maybe if I get a chance I'll do it again. If that's the case, then it's not accepted repentance. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you so much for the bold tickets. I really appreciate it. I'm not a marketing and advertising major, but it was some just human ingenuity. So I had a question about the principles whereby which you determine what is cultural and what is, for lack of a better term, the Islamic way. So like some things here, the myths about Islam, honor killing is a cultural practice. Forced marriage is cultural phenomenon. So how do you determine between what's cultural and what is essentially Muslim or Islamic? Because religion gets so caught up in culture, it's almost sometimes impossible to divorce them. Like in many cases, to be an Indian is to be a Hindu, to be a Russian is to be Orthodox. So how do you determine some of those things?
So basically the sources of our Islamic law is the Quran. If it comes from the Quran, the book of God, or number 2, the hadith, the prophetic statements, then it's Islamic. If its origin is culture, then it's cultural. So if it is not proven from the book of God, the word of God, the Quran, or from the prophetic narrations, then we will assign it to culture and it's not Islamic. Simple as that. So if you go back to the primary sources of our religion. If it comes from the primary source, is proven, then it is part of our religion. If it doesn't, then it isn't. So these actions that you're talking about are not proven in the Quran, rather the Quran speaks contrary to that.
Actually, I do not have a question. I just wanted to say I was an elected official in the Village of Glendale Heights for 10 years, and I just want to say how great it is that you did this. For years, I've driven by and wondered, what's it like in there? I want to see this, and I hope that, I know the last year you did it last year, but on a much smaller scale, and I hope that you continue to do this, because I think by opening your doors to everyone so that we can come in, hear things, see things, meet people, it fosters what we're trying to create of a community, rather than, well, that you drive by and go, that's, blinders on, that's the Muslim temple, that's their thing. I think that this really does foster a sense of community when we can all sit down together, and thank you for doing that for us.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. It's actually our honor that you came. Our pleasure and honor you came. Basically, she's asking, yes, that is absolutely, they have many practices, the Taliban, that do not follow Islamic teachings in many aspects, contrary to many things. That was a regional movement that grew up there, and due to different political conditions, yes, so we do not follow their way of...
Yeah, I didn't think you did. I mean, I've read a few books, and I thought, oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, she was asking about the Taliban, so I said we do not follow their ideology here, and she said that's what I thought as well.
Hello. So in your faith, who is the devil, and what role does he play? Or is there a devil? And I'll be a two-part question. And also, do we have a soul in your faith?
Yeah, we believe in the devil, and the devil plays a role, as well as we do believe in a soul. Both are mentioned in the Quran. The question comes, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ. They ask you pertaining the composition of the soul. What is it made up of? How is it? قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. Then the answer came, tell them that the soul, it is a command of your Lord. And وَمَا أُوتِيتُ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. You have not been given knowledge, but very little. Meaning, it is beyond your ability to comprehend the nature of the soul at this point. So that was left ambiguous in the Quran. It was just said it is a creation of God that is beyond, it is not from the physical world, it's not composed of elements on the periodic table, it belongs to the metaphysical world, which is beyond our physical world, the soul. And we believe in the devil. Devil is from the jinn, and the devil is Satan. We believe in Satan. They inspire human beings towards committing sins. We believe that they are enemy of Adam and the progeny of Adam, the human beings, and their ultimate goal is to take as many people into the fire of hell. But we have to not fall into the whisperings of the devil and try to stay on the straight path. Yeah.
When we read about Sharia law, we think of such things as cutting off the hands of thieves or stoning to death for adultery. Are those part of Islam, or are those part only of national traditions in certain areas?
So basically, Sharia law, as I said, it's a law that encompasses all aspects of one's life, from worship to economy, to social life, to etiquette, to ethics, to morals, to character, all of that. And one small percentage of that, is the penal code, right? So there are certain conditions for that penal code to be established. It cannot be implemented. For example, there is a penal code, there is a code of, there are some crimes that have certain punishments which are part of the penal code of Islam. And so it's not for any petty theft. If, for example, in the Hanafi school, one of the schools of thought is that if something of a higher value has worth 10 silver coins or more, so it was called a dirham, something that's more than 10 dirhams in value, and there are particular conditions if it's stolen from a protected place, and it's not just on the street, someone picked it up, someone actually steals, and then it's proven, and there's witnesses, and it goes through the whole judicial process, then that crime is there. But the purpose of the punishment is there. The punishment is as a deterrent. The threshold is so high that you have to have eyewitnesses, and it has to be of such a certain value, so that it is more difficult to establish. But that is the part of the overall picture of the Islamic law, but that is a small part of it. And also, the Sharia tells us to follow the laws of the land when it comes to these issues. So no one is allowed to, vigilante justice is not permitted in the Sharia. You cannot take the law into your own hands and start enacting these punishments. That would be against the Sharia. If there is a genuine country that they are all Muslims and they are following and they choose to follow, and then they appoint it and they accept it among themselves to follow those laws, then it would be applicable. But here in the United States, the Sharia law tells us that we have to follow the laws of the land in these matters. So if it's not cultural, I'm not going to tell you it's cultural just to sound nice. It is part of the Sharia, but it has certain restrictions when it's applicable. Thank you very much.
This is about the Holy Spirit. Bible speaks about the Holy Spirit, and the Quran also speaks about the Holy Spirit. Bible says Holy Spirit is God, but Quran doesn't say Holy Spirit is Gabriel angel. How do you explain that? Holy Spirit is Gabriel angel.
Yeah. We have one of our.
On what basis?
Okay. Can I carry on from the last one? Yeah. About the hudud. So basically, this in our Bible, in our Quran, we have the word Ruhul Amin, the Holy Spirit. So the Muslims understand the Holy Spirit to be the angel of Gabriel. So this has been, the Quran is revealed, but it's not up to us how we interpret it, how we understand it on our own, but rather the Quran says, لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ. It is the Prophet's responsibility to explain the Quran that has been revealed. So we learn from the prophetic traditions what is meant by Ruhul Amin. And the prophetic traditions tell us that this is referring to the angel Jibreel. That's why we understand it as angel Jibreel, based on the hadith.
Yep. So I'm just going to give a last couple announcements here as we conclude here. We do still have some time for some question and answer, so we'll leave the mics open for maybe 2 or 3 more questions. In that interim, again, please do keep in mind the surveys. We really find those valuable information. While we get some of those questions ready, we'd like to make a special announcement to our senior facilities manager here, Juan, who's sitting out here in the audience with us. He is really a crucial individual to this mosque since its inception. Without him, I mean, just some of the daily tasks that we do here as a community for yourselves as well, it would literally be impossible. So really, with the people here, if we don't mind just giving him a round of applause, that'd be terrific. We have a question, I believe? Yes.
Thank you. My question is more socio-cultural about this. How does Islam see the homosexuality or diversity sexual? And in the Christian, I have one hope. If I accept to Christ and He change my mind, change my soul, how does Islam see this?
Could you give us the last part of that question again?
The question is, how does Islam see the diversity sexual or the homosexuality?
So basically, in our religion, in Islam, if a person naturally has homosexual tendencies, then that person is not directly condemned, but rather this would be considered a special test for that the person has to overcome. I don't want to beat around the bush. I want to be very clear that in Islam, marriage is considered to be between a male and a female, and that is part of the purposes of marriage is procreation, which occurs with the union of a male and female. So that is the understanding of marriage in Islam. But at the same time, there is this whole debate of nature versus nurture. Where does the homosexuality come from? There is no definitive proof either way or position in Islam. It's just that if somebody has those things, just like somebody has a particular problem, he has this inclination towards younger children, doesn't mean it's going to be ethically permissible to fulfill their lust with children. We will have to overcome that. If somebody is married but has heterosexual tendencies towards other women besides his wife, that is a challenge they have to overcome. So likewise, if somebody has these challenges, then that person in our religion is not directly condemned to the fire just because he feels like that, but rather we will try to counsel that person, help that person, and accept them. They can be a Muslim. If they continue to practice homosexuality, actively participate, fulfilling that, still they are not expelled from Islam. They still remain a Muslim, but this would be considered something unethical and not moral. So we have to make a distinction, just like I mentioned in Sharia law, that when it comes to these type of things, we follow the law of the land. Like for example, we don't believe in drinking wine. We don't believe in eating pork. We don't believe in gambling. We don't believe in a lot of things, but they're legal. So likewise, if it's legally accepted as marriage in the United States government, the Supreme Court passes it, the Congress passes it, the state laws, legislatures, whatever the case may be. So we accept it that, okay, legally, if it is considered marriage between male and female, if legally homosexuality is permitted, it may be permitted legally, and we will uphold the right of people to legally pass it and legally have that right. But at the same time, we do not feel we are bound to accept it, that it is moral and ethical on our grounds. Just like those who practice this type of lifestyle have the right to legally be recognized, we also have the right to ethically not consider it to be moral, based on our tradition. So both have their rights. We Muslims have rights to consider what's moral and immoral, and our deciding factor to define what is moral and immoral is the Quran. And the Quran speaks about the nation of Lot, and Lot was a prophet of God, and he went and spoke to his people, and they were involved in this practice. And so this is considered as something immoral in our religion, in our tradition. But I'm not saying that we are against people. We are told not to look down upon any people. We are told to respect people. We consider the act itself to be a sin, but we have mercy and compassion for those who may be involved in the sin, and we reserve the right to consider something to be a sin based on our tradition, while accepting it legally to be permissible based on the laws of the land. This is a very pertinent question because we go to different universities, and the Muslim student organizations, they tell us that our biggest supporters for our rights and helping us on campus in various issues and marching with us are the LGBTQ community. And they say that we are being affected as a minority, and you are also being harassed by people, and you are being, facing negativity and Islamophobia, and we are also facing homophobia. So there's an alliance between us. So they ask us as imams, like, can we do vigils with them? Can we support them? How far do we go? Because they're supporting us, and how can we not reciprocate that? And we say that you support us, it's fine, but we can't support you because you're immoral. So this is why we had to go so far and make this distinction. And the scholars met on this, Muslim scholars, and they came to the conclusion, after a lot of discussion, that we have to separate what we believe is legal versus what we believe is moral and ethical. So it would be permissible for us to support them in their legal rights while maintaining it is unethical based on our standards. I hope that answers your question. Thank you. So we actually support them. We say that you are being mistreated by people and you are facing discrimination, so we support you in your legal rights. Just like the LGBTQ community, if they're supporting Muslims, are they coming and praying 5 times a day? They're not. Are they coming and fasting the month of Ramadan? No. They're not becoming Muslims, but they're supporting Muslims. So for us to support LGBT community doesn't mean we have to become LGBT ourselves. So we can continue to practice marriage as a heterosexual union between male and female and believe that to be the marriage, while at the same time supporting them. Just like they can support us for our freedom of religion and allow us to continue to practice our faith without discrimination, without becoming Muslim themselves. Thank you. Question in the back?
Yes. In the Muslim world, it's quite different okay, how can I say this? You say there's no compulsion in religion, particularly about for the West. But I know that millions of people who are born Muslims, for them there is compulsion in religion, that they are forced to stay Muslims, or if they have God revealed to himself differently than Islam has said, they will be excommunicated from their families, they will be persecuted, they will be tortured, they will be numerous other punishments. Could you address that? Because I've seen compulsion in religion for Muslims to maintain stay Muslims.
We have one a Christian convert to Islam. I didn't even get a chance to introduce him. He's just sitting with me. He's one of the teachers here at the, so maybe you're talking about conversion, so he's a convert himself, so he can talk about it.
Thank you for your question. Along with being a convert to Islam, I also spent numerous, or let's say quite a few years in the Middle East, in the Arab world, in Egypt and around in those places. And what you're mentioning is something that I didn't witness there, nor did I experience. It's not something, it's not something really which is found there where people are in some way that would be compelled to their religion out of fearing for their safety or something along those lines. In regards to in Islamic law, the discussion previously came up about capital punishments and those things. It's something which is sometimes brought up in regards to apostates. How would Islamic law treat them? It's something that classically Islamic scholars have differed upon. Some did say that it would be a capital punishment case. Others said no, it wouldn't be. Others said that when it would come to someone who had left Islam, they would just be left as they are, in that particular state as an apostate, and they would be continuously invited back in a good way. It's not something which would be definitive. What are you saying? Unanimous with, amongst authorities within Islamic law.
There was much persecution of Muslims who wanted to convert to Christianity. An elderly woman who was caught by the police, and they took lighters and burned her feet, forced her to drink urine. It's not the case. You're not quite equipped to answer that question as a Westerner who converted to Islam. It's the opposite.
My experience would be similar to your experience. If I'm not qualified, then nor are you. I mean, I lived in the Middle East, so did you. I have something I've seen there, and so have you. I don't think you could question my qualification to speak on the matter any less than I could question your own.
So Islam divides apostasy and compulsion in religion. That foreigners there's no compulsion for us to convert to Islam, but people who want to leave Islam are apostates and, in many cases, persecuted, tortured, or killed.
Yeah, basically, as I said, as brother, my colleague mentioned, this is something that he witnessed. His experience is different than your experience, and crimes have been committed by people of all faiths. So this is not something we should attach to the Islamic faith. This particular country, unnamed country you experienced, they may be having an authoritarian regime. They may be committing police acts of violence and brutality, and those things happen. And I said many times, I cannot defend the actions of Muslims, and we're not here to defend actions of Muslims. We're here to talk about Islam. The unfortunate reality is there is a distinction between activities of Muslims and Islam. And my primary audience all the time is Muslims. I preach to Muslims, and I tell them to follow the teachings of Islam and give up all these wrong cultural practices. So just like we talked about slaughtering pigs on the pulpit, massacring Muslims who took refuge in the mosque, the Crusaders did, these are acts of violence that took place not just by Christians, but in the name of Christ. And it's horrific acts. The Spanish Inquisition, we talked about all these crimes. So are we going to blame Christianity for those acts? Or are we going to say that people were in a particular frenzy, particular political mood, particular environment that led them to commit those horrific acts? So we have to separate the acts. We have to speak out against violence. We have to speak out against injustice, oppression, tyranny, torture of Muslims by Muslims, and done by Christians and by Jews, by anyone of all religions. So we have to speak out unanimously. People of all faith have to get together and in one voice denounce terrorism, denounce cruelty and all of these acts, and separate them from the faiths. That is the objective, not to understand that this is not something taught.
Then what is Islam's current teaching on apostasy from
basically
people who want to leave Islam?
Yeah, so a person, just like they have right now, I'm not talking about those particular oppressive regimes, what they might be doing, but what Islam teaches is that you have complete freedom, la ikraha fi din. There is no compulsion in faith. This is clearly mentioned in the Quran. The Quran, we can ask you to look through the whole Quran. I personally memorized the whole Quran, 114 chapters, 30 parts, 6,600 verses. There is no verse that talks about killing apostates. There is no verse in the entire Quran. All our children have memorized the Quran. It's an open challenge to anyone to bring a verse that the Quran says to kill an apostate. On the contrary, the Quran says very clearly, this is in the 2nd chapter, Surah Baqarah, it says, La ikraha fi din. There is no compulsion in faith. It can't be plainer than that. Thank you very much. Is this the last question? Okay, go ahead.
My turn. So, for most Christians, Sunday is the Sabbath day. For Jews, it's Saturday. For Muslims, it's Friday. Okay, so why is it Friday, first of all? And what makes Friday particularly different? Are there rules and observances that you have to do on that day? So for like me and my faith, I'm Mormon, we don't go out and shop, we don't buy things, stuff like that. We don't work. So how is it different in Islam? And why is Friday the day?
Yeah. So basically, Friday was selected by our Prophet Muhammad, and he said, "Innal Jum'ata Sayyidul Ayyam." He said, "Verily, Friday is the leader of all the days." So historically, even the Arabs, they called it Jum'ah. Jum'ah comes from Jama', the day of congregation, the day where people congregated and gathered together. As far as how a Muslim's Friday would go, it's not different from the other days of the week, with one big exception, is the congregational prayer at midday. That's when we have the noon prayer we just did. Instead of just 2-3 lines, it'll be the whole masjid, the whole mosque will be overflowing. And the prohibition of buying and selling, it lasts right for a short period of time during the day. The whole day you can earn, you can work, but only when the call to the prayer is given. إِذَا نُودِيَ لِلصَّلَاةِ مِنْ يَوْمِ الْجُمْعَةِ, on the day of Friday, when the call to prayer is given, then the God says in the Quran, فَاسْعَوْا إِلَىٰ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ, hasten to the remembrance of your Lord, and leave all transactions. So only when the call to prayer is given, like half an hour before the prayer, like at 1 o'clock, the call to prayer is given to 1:45. During that period of time, buying and selling is prohibited. But after the prayer is over, the Quran says you may spread out in the earth and earn from the bounty of your Lord. That means all kinds of economic activity can be resumed after the prayer. So there is a short prohibition of buying and selling during the time of the actual prayer itself. That's it. Thank you very much for staying and giving me the opportunity to answer your questions and visiting us. Hopefully you had a very enlightening experience, and we appreciate all the questions, and thank you so much.